afternoon and welcome to Flipped Math. In this lesson, you will learn how to solve pattern word problems by using a table in real-world situations. First, we're going to review numerical patterns in a sequence. So let's look at the first pattern. I see that it goes 2, 4, 8, 16. So I have to figure out what the rule is to get from one term to the next term. I notice to get from 2 to 4 that I am doubling it. 2 times 2 equals 4. I notice to get from 4 to 8, I multiply 4 times 2, which gives me 8. And now I have to figure out how do I get from 8 to 16? Same rule. Times 2. 8 times 2 equals 16. So the rule for this pattern would be times 2. Now I have to figure out the next term. I know that 16 times 2 equals 32. I have to keep following the same exact rule for this pattern in this sequence. How do I get from 32 to the next term? What operation do I have to do? Same rule, multiply times 2, which would be 64. Now we have to do one more. I have to use the same rule and multiply times 2. And I have filled in the last term, which is 128. Now let's look at the second numerical pattern. I notice that it goes from 96 to 48 to 24. I notice that this pattern is decreasing. So I'm probably going to either be subtracting or I'm going to be dividing. I'm thinking it's kind of the opposite of the first one that we did. I know for sure that 48, to get from 48 to the term 24, that I am dividing by 2. But I need to make sure that 96 divided by 2 equals 48. So I'm going to do this right here, and I'm going to actually add 48 plus 48 here to check my work. 8 plus 8 is 16. 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So in fact, the divided by 2 also works to get from 96 to 48. So now, since I know that divide by 2 is my rule, 24 divided by 2 equals 12. 12 divided by 2, well, what I need you to do now is pause the video and fill in the last two terms for this numerical pattern. Hopefully you got 6 and 3 for the next two terms in our decreasing numerical pattern. Okay, mystery. What is the 100th term in this pattern? Use the table to assist in problem solving. And I look up here and I see the problem. This goes 4, 8, 12, 16. It's a little different than the ones we did on the page before. So how do we, first of all, keep going in the pattern and find the next three terms, but then also how do we use this rule to figure out the 100th term in the pattern? Let me see. I know that to get from 4 to 8, that I'm multiplying times 2. Sometimes, in order to figure out what the rule is, we also need to create a table. So in this case, the first term, you will see here, the first term, we figure out by doing 1 times 4, which equals 4. We see the second term, 2 times 4 equals 8. The third term in our pattern is 3 times 4, which equals 12. So 12 is the third term. The fourth term, we multiply 4 times 4, which equals 16. So you'll see that the rule here is times 4 in order to get the next term. So we're filling in our chart, and we need to figure out the fifth term. So following my pattern, I will do 5 times 4, which equals 20. So 20 would be the next term in this sequence. The sixth term, following the pattern, would be 6 times 4, which equals 24. 24 would be the next term in this sequence. The seventh term would be 7 times 4, which equals 28. And 28 goes up here. Now, how do we figure out the 100th term using this pattern? What I think I need to do is I would multiply 100 times 4 following this pattern, which would give me 400. The 100th term would equal 400 based on the rule that we have here. And our question down here says, is the pattern growing or shrinking? In this case, I look and I go back to the top. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. That would be a growing pattern. Now we're going to watch the following video for a real-world example of numerical patterns.
Exercise keeps you healthy and strong, but you can't just start by lifting a lot of weight or running a marathon. You need to increase your strength and endurance by following a workout routine. That's what Robert will do for the next 4 weeks. To get started, Robert and his trainer figure out what he can do comfortably, how much weight he can lift, how many push-ups he can do, and how long he can run. Then, each week, Robert will increase the amount of weight, the number of push-ups, and his running time. Robert and his trainer plan and write out his exercise routine. We can see that all the numbers are increasing because the same amount is added each week, and that makes it an increasing number pattern. Week 1. Robert runs for 15 minutes, lifts 80 pounds, and does 2 sets of 20 push-ups, 40 total. Week 2. Run for 20 minutes, lift 85 pounds, and do 2 sets of 22 push-ups, that's 44 total. Week 3. Run for 25 minutes, lift 90 pounds, and do 2 sets of 24 push-ups, or 48 total. Week 4. Run for 30 minutes, lift 95 pounds, and do 2 sets of 26 push-ups, that's 52 total. Let's figure out the rule for Robert's exercise routine. Each week, Robert must add 5 minutes to his run, 5 pounds to his weights, and 4 push-ups total. At the end of the 4 weeks, Robert is in better shape than he's been for years. See how an increasing number pattern can help keep you healthy and strong.
So what you just heard was a real-world example of how someone might use a table to figure out the pattern in a sequence, to figure out what to do next. So we're going to look at a couple that are on the board right here. If a student does 20 minutes of reading each night, how many minutes of reading will he do in 6 days? So think about, how could you create a table like they just did in the video for this student? So pause the video here and see if you can think of one. Okay, so I started a chart here that shows the days and the minutes for this student who chooses to do 20 minutes of reading each night. So the first night you'll see, I've already have on the chart or the table that they read 20 minutes. Now I'm going to add that second day. How many minutes would they have read the second night if a student does 20 minutes of reading each night? So what's the total amount? So I know that since he's doing 20 minutes, he or she, each night, that it would now be a total of 40 minutes because 20 plus 20 equals 40. Now I'm going to go to the third day. And I'm trying to figure out what this pattern is here. So now it says 20 minutes each night. So I need to add another 20. And I know 40 plus 20 is 60. So 40 plus 20 is 60. Then that means on the third day, the student has read 60 minutes. Now, how do I figure out, oh, let me see this rule. So I know each time that I'm moving to the next number, the rule is add 20. We're adding 20 minutes. Plus 20, I could put it over here like they did in the other chart. So I'm now going to go to day 4, and I'm going to add 20. 60 plus 20 is 80. And now I need to fill in my last 2 days, days 5 and 6. 80 plus 20 is 100 minutes. And then 100 plus 20 is 120 minutes. So after the 6 days, he has read 120 minutes. 120 minutes. And I know that there's 60 minutes in an hour. So if I divide by 2, I know 120 divided by 2. I'm sorry. I meant divided by 60 minutes would equal the 2 hours, and that was the challenge question. Now, what I would like you to do is for you to choose one of the other 2 choices up there, or you can think of your own. You are going to create a chart for a real world example. And when you're thinking of this, think about these questions to discuss. How can we determine the relationship between numbers? How can we describe a pattern? How can we use patterns to solve problems?